everyone, this is Riya Sethi from Manifest, and today we are hosting this panel discussion which is a part of our focus on healthcare and pharma. Today's topic is why so serious, and we have with us Dr. Vishal Kaushik, former Director, Enterprise Strategy and New Products MSD, Praful Akali, founder and MD Medulla, Chanakya Mishra, business franchisee, head cardiovascular,
Thank you.
Novartis.
Glad to be here.
So, as the topic itself says, pharma advertising is quite serious. So, when it comes to pharma advertising, we are seeing a lot of fear being injected into campaigns. So, Vishal, do you think that's the only way the industry can operate?
Definitely not. I think fear as an emotion has been overused as well as misused in most of the campaigns that I have come across in the pharma industry. This should be one of the last emotion, if you ask me, for someone to explore when they are exploring a campaign within the pharmaceutical space. There are a number of other emotions that needs to be deep dived to make the campaigns much more exciting and much more relevant for the population.
Praful and Chanakya, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, completely agree with Vishal. The fear mongering is almost the weakest form of marketing, and when you're kind of resorting to it, you're not doing right by your responsibility to the patient. If you can imagine that any of us, if we are scared, you don't always think rationally. You don't always act in the way that you need to. Versus in pharma marketing, we have this responsibility to get people to do what is right through our communication, through our marketing. And fear-mongering is the opposite of that. So completely agree.
I agree with both the points. However, I just want to just talk about why this also happens. It's important to understand that why is it that pharma plays on fear. It's a lot. It has to do with the fact that people do not take diseases very seriously. And if you see the Indian mentality in particular is that there's a lot of self-sacrifice and they give up on their health and they'd rather spend money on something else, entertainment or vacationing, but not on their health. So a lot of times healthcare companies, including pharma companies, think that the best way to do it is to increase that importance of what they are saying, and fear becomes a vehicle for that importance. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do, but that is their way of showing that this is important. Now look at COVID vaccines, right? When COVID vaccines have come, would any other emotion be important? COVID had itself created fear, right? Now you're giving a solution. Maybe some other emotions could have worked, but the important thing is that you need to take this vaccine, otherwise X, Y, Z. So that's why it's important to understand why pharma actually, or healthcare in particular, looks at increasing the importance of what they're doing through fear.
I think he makes a very wonderful point on why fear as well. I think if you are looking for a sudden action, or you're expecting a sudden intervention or an action from your client, that definitely could be one of the emotions that you should aim at. But if you're looking at a sustained long-term action or a change in behavior from your client or a customer or a patient, at that point in time, it would be nice to explore other emotions. But yes, very good point made, Chanakya. I think fear for an immediate intervention, urgent intervention, is a emotion that has played well so far.
So, as Vishal already mentioned that we can have other emotions as well. So, Chanakya, do you think in the pharma industry we can use with a touch of humor or any other emotions?
It's not completely true that pharma is bereft of all emotions. Like when pharma companies go to doctors, they talk a lot about trust, for example. They talk about a lot about legacy, history, and that aspect also leads to trust, but also leads to the aspect that, respect. Those kind of emotions play on pharma brands, but the range is very limited. Most of the time when you ask a pharma brand manager, what is it that, what is the emotion which the doctor will feel for your brand? It's trust, or it comes out as respect or something like that. So the range of emotion is truly limited to, as you said, play on fear or build trust, build respect. Those kind of things become a bit narrow in terms of the range of emotions which we are playing with. We can of course play on a lot more emotions. I think humor is one of the things which are less used to drive messages home, and there can be of course other things. You don't have to be just trust or respect. It can be related to other emotions, like there are range of emotions including motherhood, the aspect of love. There can be a huge amount of things which pharma can do to drive home messages and also build their brand based on that emotion. I think the aspect of building brand on rational is something which comes natural to pharma, because medicines and our doctor communication is full of scientific facts. So the first thing which we think of is what is it that we want to talk, so rational. But this aspect of differentiating ourselves and giving message emotionally is something which doesn't come to us so naturally.
Praful, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think that what happens in pharma marketing very often is that as marketing folks, we have two key target audiences. We have doctors or healthcare professionals, and we have patients. And we've used the science to build a medicine that truly changes lives. But very often we end up assuming that that science, that rationale is what I need in order to sell the medication. But I find personally that it's very important to realize that doctors are human beings too. And they also connect to emotions. All of us as people, and advertising overall has progressed into emotions being a great way to connect to folks. Humor is just one of those emotions, but like Chanakya said, if we watch TV for 3 minutes as a break in the IPL, you'll get lust as an emotion. You'll get greed or gambling. Unfortunately, is a lot of the ad. So there are a lot of emotions that can be used to connect to people, but it's important to use one of those emotions. And the fear becomes a part of the rationale, because you're trying to tell people that, if you don't take the medicine, this is what will happen. And it automatically goes into fear mongering. The moment you start figuring out what's the role that the medicine plays in the life of the patient, you then are able to add other emotions to it. And I find that really exciting.
I think one of the points that we need to be careful about when we do marketing in this space is that most of the people believe, especially within the talent pool that we have come across here, is that if we use humor as an option, the stretch of that emotion might dilute the seriousness or the importance of the thing that I'm trying to convey. And that might be one of the reasons that many marketers in this domain have refrained from really exploring this emotion. Having said that, in the OTX space, we have seen some very good campaigns which have used humor very well to convey a point and also have an action impact based on those campaigns. My take would be is that whenever you are exploring any emotion, whether it's fear, whether it's humor, whether it's lust, greed, anything, there is a tendency in the recipient's mind to stretch that emotion. And when you stretch that emotion, fear will have fear mongering, as Praful mentions, and then higher chances of taking an action. Versus humor, if humor is stretched, maybe I might have diluted the entire campaign as well, and hence a little hesitation there. But this is definitely an emotion, if done really, really well, can have equal or a better and a longer lasting impact.
So I want to know from you, Vishal, as marketers, what are the communication strategies they can adopt to weave humor and other emotions responsibly in their campaigns?
I think when you are creating a marketing campaign, what is of critical importance, for example, let's say if you are looking for a chronic disease, and in chronic disease what you are actually expecting for a person or an individual or a patient to go through is to have a behavioral change. And for that behavioral change, he or she needs to have a change in the belief system that they have. And for that to happen, there has to be a moment of realization when the actual steps is inculcated and then thereafter taken by the patient. We recently used a campaign in my previous tenure where we used the Takeshi Castle sort of an approach, seeing what are the pain points that the patient is going through till the time, and we were actually able to exhibit that to an HCP as well, where they could figure out these are the all issues that the patient goes through, and that's where what would be the best medication or a treatment for them to be used. So we have used it before, it have worked wonders, and there are a number of ways, other ways as well that it can be explored.
Chanakya.
What I want to talk about when emotions are concerned is that I would like each and every brand manager to actually introspect what is the message they want to give to their target audience, be it the patients or be it the doctors. So once they have a crystal clear understanding of what is it that they want to communicate, they should also understand what is the emotion they want the target audience to have. And all the great brands which are there in the world have a very strong connect with their target audience, and that's not based on scientific evidence or numbers, because that's not what really connects human beings. What connects are emotions. And I would encourage people to actually have a look at the talk which Steve Jobs gave when he came back to Apple, where he refers to some of the great brands and what connects the audience to them. And he gives the example of Nike, where he talks about how Nike never shows shoes in their ads. He talks about how Nike actually respects great athletes throughout in their advertising. It's not about shoes, right? They never talk about our shoes are much more flexible or they jump more and nothing. It's all about how achievement oriented great athletes are and how they have been able to become what they are. And similarly, he talks about what Apple should be, and he talks about how he has thought through and he says that Apple should be a partner for all great things. And that's why we are standing for thinking differently. And that's where that beautiful slogan of think different has come. Why can't that be for pharma? I mean, out of all what is being done to mankind, I think pharma is the one which is having one of the biggest impact, right? I mean, is it soft drinks? Is it biscuits? Is it chips? No, it's pharma. I mean, we are here, we are saving lives, we are making difference to people. Why can't that kind of a thought process be applicable to pharma? So the kind of range of emotions which we can deal with in pharma is tremendous if we give it a thought.
I think if you really study whether it's a product or a therapy segment that you are going deep into, you have to be very, very careful to understand what is the personality of the product or the brand that you are portraying. If your personality itself gives you a range of emotion, then you should definitely explore. But then once you have identified, stay true to that personality over a really long term for it to have a stronger impact. And I would also say so, there are some emotions, or especially humor as one of the emotion, should be refrained from some therapy areas, for like oncology, where you would want the message to be conveyed in such a way that both the HCP, the patient and caretaker gets and imbibes the message much more. And then other emotions should be explored and have the due ability for in them to convey the message.
For me, from a strategic point of view, what I find is that in pharma marketing, I love what Chanakya said. And another way to put that is that the science is always ahead of behavior. And the role of a pharma marketing person is to get the doctor's behavior or the patient's behavior to pace up to where the science already is. Whenever we are changing behavior, we've all heard the term think, feel and do. So the behavior you're changing is you're moving from the current do to the do you want the doctor to achieve. Not prescribing a category, they should be prescribing a category. But the very basic of marketing and communication is that our do is always driven by our think and our feel. And until I change my think and my feel, I cannot change my do. And that's why emotion just becomes a core part of it. The moment you try and analyze why is the doctor not prescribing this category, Why is the doctor not prescribing a molecule for this patient profile? You will realize what they're thinking or what they're feeling, and therefore we need to change that in order to change the do, and which is why emotion will then always be a part of your communication.
So Praful, can you recollect any pharma campaigns that have used humor, India or internationally?
Tons and tons of them, both humor and other emotions. You know, my favorite campaign in this space is a campaign that we've done ourselves called Last Laugh, and this was for palliative care or end-of-life care. We had already run, at that point of time, the access to palliative care in India was about 2%. And we'd already run campaigns where we spoke about what is end-of-life care and how patients can use it. The problem was that, and how doctors can recommend it, patients can use it. However, the problem was that talking about death in India is a taboo. And even doctors did not like to tell patients that you're terminally ill. So how do you break that taboo? What we did is, like in any marketing, we went back and we did some consumer research. So Dr. Boja's, there's a palliative care hospice in Bandra, and we went there and we spoke to a few patients, and we realized that the terminally ill patients that had actually been through palliative care were not just comfortable talking about death, they would actually joke about it. And it was a very natural joking, the same way when you come to terms with something, you joke about it. And it was very scary for us that gave us the insight that you can actually use that humor and that take on death that a dying patient has to get people to break the taboo. If these people can joke about it, why can't I at least talk about it? So we actually got these patients to perform stand-up comedy. It became a very famous campaign across the world. It helped us take the access to palliative care in the country to 5% in a span of a few years. But again, it was very scary for us to say that while we were building the campaign, that we are actually going to be using humor in a way. We're doing a stand-up comedy show to break the taboo on death. So it's no doubt scary, but if it is connected to the insight that changes the behavior, if it is connected to the thinking and the feeling of your communication, it works. But it's better not to start off with saying that in this campaign I want to inject humor no matter what. But if that's the emotion that moves the needle, then so be it.
Based on such a beautiful insight, when he actually got talking to an HCP who's using this approach to manage the transition, I think insights like this will really help carve out the right place and the right domain for you to take such emotions and explore them more.
I actually want to give two examples which come to my mind. One is an Indian example and the other is a China example. So I'll first talk about China example because it requires technology, and given the fact that now technology is making big leaps, it's actually an example of how technology was used to build some fun. So, generally people have to go to a doctor to test their breath. So this is a Breathe Easy campaign where a company actually asked the patients to download an app, and they could breathe into their phone, and by actually breathing out on their phone, they actually made a tree. And the completion of that tree helped in terms of understanding how much percentage of their lungs is actually getting used. So it could detect asthma, but it was also fun. So this kind of a campaign which is able to use technology, does something fun, and is able to therefore stand out rather in terms of the clutter is a beautiful example of how you can be fun while also doing something very serious like being able to detect asthma. So that's what happened in China with this kind of campaign called Breathe Easy. And I also want to give an example where it was a classic doctor marketing, which a company did for their GI products, where they actually used to show two clips of two doctors actually conversing with each other in terms of a gossip conversation, etc. And they did it in terms of the clinic. They did not know how it's going to come out, but their in-clinic time increased from around 25-30 seconds on an average to 6 minutes with that clip. Two doctors gossiping about it, and they got in their product. So this was a GI product, but it was a fantastic campaign because of the kind of recollection they had, the top of mind awareness they got, and I think so it does work. I mean, humor does work, but you have to use it right. I think, like Vishal had said.
So thank you Vishal, Praful and Chanakya for your time and being a part of this panel discussion today. This is Riya Sethi from Manifest signing off.